Trusting your intuition is not a superpower. It is your natural state. And the world needs you in the fullness and embodiment of your truth. Welcome back to Divine Alignment. We are going to be talking about how to trust your intuition. And if perhaps you feel as though you have trusted your intuition and it has failed you, we're going to be diving into how to anchor this knowing into the body, into your life. So if you are new, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, and let's dive right in. So talking about intuition is one of my favorite things because it really truly is our natural state. It's who we are on a soul level. And yet we come into these bodies, we forget it's part of the human experience. And I believe remembering who we truly are is aligning with our intuition and trusting our intuition. And this can be tapping into your higher self, your knowing. You can also be trusting your intuitive guidance when you are receiving messages from your angels, from your guides, from God, source, the universe. There is no limit to what this trust can be and look like and express as. However, there is definitely a constriction that can happen and a limitation that can happen when we withhold from ourselves and from our true divine nature. And that's where I really want to begin is like, I think it's really important to set the stage, I think, because so many people, this is one of the top things people ask me in mentorship and in sessions is, how do I trust myself and my intuition? And like, how do I channel? How do I do these things? Because I know that I've trusted myself in the past and my intuition in the past, and it failed me. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So I really want to like get into the energetics of this because it's so important, and understanding this on a deeper level, I believe is the number one catalyst to change everything in your life. Because if we can trust our intuition, then all of a sudden we know what steps to take to heal our body, what steps to take to grow our business and career, what steps to take to call in or amplify or strengthen that relationship that we're desiring, to become all that we truly desire. It really is trusting our intuition and receiving that guidance, and not just receiving it, but implementing it. So I want to begin by setting the stage of like, this is something that we're actually programmed not to do. So hopefully I don't say this as like doom and gloom, but more so to take the pressure off, because I know a lot of people are so hard on themselves, and I certainly was for many years and still find myself in this at times of like, why don't I know why don't I know the next step to take? Or why is the guidance not coming through? Or like, what decision do I make? Like, we've all been there. And this isn't something you're doing wrong. It's literally the system that you were born into. We are, if you're the normal person, you probably went to some type of schooling. And in our traditional schooling, there's very much like this homogenization that takes place where kids are taught the same things in the same way at the same age, and then are expected to make these higher level decisions about themselves and their lives and what they want to do when they've been taught in programs the same thing, like to learn math and science and writing and reading in the same. I mean, sure, there are a few different iterations, but it's essentially the same. Children are not taught to lean into their gifts and their talents. And oh my gosh, this is something that I this is something that I have had the conversation with a lot recently of like, can you imagine if we were taught in school manifestation, the laws of the universe, how energy works and energetics, how to actually consciously create your reality. Because these are all intuition, channeling, because these are all our innate states of who we are innately. And if we learned to cultivate these, because if you look at children, they know. They talk with the unseen. They play, they have their imagination open and receptive. And if we actually harness this and not force them to just grow up, I believe we would be living in a whole new paradigm and world. And there's a huge shift taking place in the schooling system. So that's beautiful. But I know if you're watching this, you probably had some type of schooling in which this was not the case. And this is not like to bash teachers or the schooling system, especially to not bash teachers, because they're, I believe, just like doctors, it's like their intention and their desire is to help heal and support and guide and lead and really like help children and others and people. They're just not taught. Like they're just not taught. They're just not taught, just like we're not taught, right? So no one is like, there's no one that we need to like put blame towards, but I just want to like really set this foundation of like, we're taught from a very young age not to trust ourselves. We're taught to trust externally, and then we are given tests. And oh my goodness, I think back to myself, like tests were one of the hardest things for me in school, because I would get so in my head of like trying to figure out the answer. And I didn't know back then, which, oh my gosh, I like when I recently taught this muscle testing class, which like this is a huge way to strengthen our intuition, is muscle testing, which if you have not gotten my muscle testing workshop of how I taught muscle testing, I'm going to link that below because it will change your life and is a huge way to strengthen our intuition. But I started thinking back to like imagining when I was in school, like, what if I knew muscle testing when I was taking tests? I can't even imagine. Like, could have had all the answers. I could have had all the answers and not even needed to, oh my goodness, torture myself with all of the studying that I did of subjects that I did not like. So all this to say, we're programmed from a very young age. And again, I say this not to disempower you, but to just take the pressure off. Take the pressure off and recognize and realize that this is not your fault. This is nothing you did wrong. It's simply a broken system that is absolutely being rebuilt, well, crumbling and being rebuilt right now, because we see that it's not working and it's not where we're going. The next thing I want to touch on is I've heard people say, I've trusted my intuition before and it failed me. It didn't lead to the right solutions, or I don't know how to trust it now because it's failed me in the past. Any types of things like this. I want to bring this up because this is very, very important to recognize and realize that everything has worked out exactly as it's supposed to. Everything. And just because something did not go as, quote, planned, it doesn't mean it wasn't the optimal path for your soul. Hindsight is always 20/20, they say. But I want you to begin to shift this perspective in that you really can't make a wrong decision. And that's going to be a really big tip in cultivating your intuition, is that there is no right or wrong. This is a trap in the linear thinking and just thinking that there is right, wrong, good, bad. It's not like that. What is right for you is the decision that you decide is right for you. Okay. This alone can change your whole life. Deciding that the decision you make is the right one. It doesn't matter what your intuition is telling you, the path will unfold as you make that decision. And that really is part of this trust, which is really like, this is part of it. This is part of it. This is something that my guides have shared with me that I will never, ever forget, when they said, to trust yourself is to trust God. And to trust God is to trust yourself. Now, interchange any term, universe, source, divine, whatever you would like. To trust yourself is to trust the universe. To trust the universe is to trust yourself. These are the same energy, okay? So as we learn to cultivate this trust from within, if you're struggling to trust yourself, trust God. And if you're struggling to trust God, trust yourself. And if you can't trust either, this is where we have to get into reprogramming the mind, the subconscious mind, and the body somatically so that you can trust. So let's just dive in to the tips now. Like, how do we cultivate and strengthen our intuition? Number one is going to be that. It is going to be releasing any beliefs in your mind, consciously or subconsciously, that have led you to believe you cannot trust. And also somatically from the body, releasing any beliefs that have stored energy in the body. It's really important to do both of these. And while I think we can get huge transformations from one or the other, I think when we put them together, that is where your whole life will change. It's through this integration and weaving of the mind, the body, because then when you do both of these together, you align with the spirit and soul, okay? So aligning and reprogramming our subconscious beliefs, healing on a somatic level, and now it feels safe in the body to trust, and you have released the stories and programs that have taught you not to trust. I have done sessions with people. One in particular comes to mind, a session that I did with a woman who was trying to make more money. And we went back to a belief, or rather something that she was told by her mother way, way early on in life. She asked for something at a gas station or a grocery store or something like that. She asked if she could have like a piece of candy, and the mom said something so benign and was totally joking and sarcastic and said, "Do you deserve this?" So now she goes her whole life, she's in her 40s and doesn't believe she's worthy and deserving of money. I've had numerous sessions as well where kids go back to school and where they were traumatized because they raised their hand and they had the wrong answer, or because, oh my goodness, I have seen teachers like do horrendous things to students and children. And when you're at that age, it's a big deal. It's a big deal if Mrs. Smith reprimands you for you doing your best. It's a big deal. And it doesn't seem like a big deal like now, but back then it was. And so releasing and reprogramming that belief, which is kind of my specialty, and then doing it from the body, which I also help you integrate. This is so important. It is so important to heal that little girl or little boy who received some type of feedback at some point in our lives that showed us that we couldn't trust ourselves. We've all had it. We've all gone through times in our lives where some authority figure has questioned us, that has led us to believe that we were wrong and they were right. It's I mean, the mere fact of like taking tests, if you get one wrong, it's like, here's this piece of paper saying you got this wrong, you weren't right, you couldn't trust yourself. I mean, it really is like, that's how it works. And so I know these seem like really small things, but like when we're so young, these make a big deal or a big impression in the body and in the mind and beliefs. And it literally shapes the way that we see the world. So now, years and years later, again, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal now, like, okay, boo-hoo, you like got one wrong on a test. But like all these years later, now your perception is to view the world in like, well, I didn't know, or I don't know. And it really does carry over that many years if we don't rewrite that energy and shift those beliefs. So the next way, number 2, of how we can cultivate our intuition is, I want you to really think of your intuition and cultivating this as cultivating a relationship with the one and only person that you are going to be spending the rest of your life with. And that's you. This is the most important work that you can do, and it will impact every relationship in your life, every experience in your life, everything in your life. And so, how would you treat a relationship like that? How would you treat something so sacred as that? And I want you to think of this as like building a muscle. So just the same way that we would go to a gym, like this is literally building your intuition muscle. And it's not something that if you haven't used or tapped into, like you're not going to learn it overnight. You might have an awakening, but if this is something you're seeking and desiring to learn, not being so hard on yourself that you just don't flip the switch and it's on. So how do we get into like the daily practice of tapping into our intuition? I'm going to say that my number one way is journaling. Just begin by getting the thoughts out of your mind. Begin by just stream of consciousness, what's on your mind, just write. This can be pen and paper, if necessary, on your phone, in your notes app, or the way that I like to do it is on my computer. I know they say pen to paper is like the most powerful, but like you have to do what works for you. And for me, I can type. It's the only thing that can like kind of keep up with how fast my mind moves. I just could I enjoy writing, but like it can't keep up with the thoughts that are streaming through. And really that's how I learned to channel, was through my automatic writing. And it was when I went off into the forest, sat on a log way back where no one was, and I started writing, and then all of a sudden started channeling. My life has never been the same since. So how can you set aside, it can be 5 minutes. We can all find 5 minutes a day to pull out our journal, pull out a Word document, pull out our phone, just write. What's on your mind? What's coming through? What have you been thinking about? And just explore it. Let it come. There's no right or wrong. There's no structure. You get to create the structure. You get to learn. And I do this every single morning. It's how part of my morning practice. And I always keep my phone and my notes app throughout the day. So that's going to be the third tip, is to keep track, like really keep track of all of these ways in which you trusted your intuition and it led to something great, or it you saw it pay off, which I want to just remind you, as I said earlier, just because it doesn't pay off initially doesn't mean that you went wrong. Doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. You might just not see instantly that it was the right decision. It might be the right decision, quote, right, for later on in your life, okay? So don't always take things at face value, but keeping track of just like not only where you trusted your intuition and it went right, but keeping track of synchronicities, of miracles, of magic, of these things that are happening in your life and in your day-to-day experience that are just like, this is magical. This is magical because this will get you in the frequency of trust and intuition. The fourth tip, which is going to, I'm almost positive, I've never seen anyone talk about this. And this is what the guides brought through as something that will really help people cultivate their intuition. And that is to help others cultivate theirs. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go out and teach intuition. It means when you hear someone say something, and perhaps this seems a bit out of the ordinary or it doesn't sound right to you, don't question it. Don't question it. This means supporting others' truth, even when it doesn't feel like truth to you. We all have however many people and souls on this planet there are, how many versions of truth there are, because we are all viewing things from a different realm of consciousness and a different perspective. So when we can support others in their truth and what they feel to be true, I want you to imagine the energetics of that. Everything is energy, and everything that we send out, we are receiving. So if you send out that energy of, I trust you and your decision, even if I don't align with it, that energy is going to come back to you. And now all of a sudden, you will be reminded that you can trust yourself. And this means really having and practicing a perspective of non-judgment and really like non-duality and non there's another word for that. Anyways, of everyone is acting from what they know to be true and doing the best they can with what they know. I really, truly, firmly believe that. Even if they're not succeeding and not living the optimal life, they're doing the best they can with what they have available. I really, truly believe that. Even if they're in very harmful behaviors, that is some type of protection mechanism, some type of learned behavior. And that is it's all they know. And letting that be their truth, letting that be what is best for them. Because who are we to judge another's journey? Who are we to say what's right for another person? Who are we to say what's truth for another person? And so when we can just so openly accept another's truth and another's perspective, even when it doesn't align with ours, we now not only set them free, but we set ourselves free. Because now we can do the same. We can do the same now, whether it's with them or with another. This, I really believe practicing this could completely change every aspect of your life. Number 5 is a very easy, and perhaps sometimes overlooked one that I have to remind myself of. And that is literally just clear your field, clear your aura, clear your space, clear your energy. And if you're a highly sensitive person, an empath, whatever the case is, it's very easy to pick up on other people's emotions, on other people's feelings, and on other people's beliefs, believe it or not. And how can you simply, this takes all of 3 seconds to take a deep breath, come into your heart, And clearing your field can look a million different ways. I'm not here to tell you how to do it or what's the right way. The right way is going to be your way. What I like to do is just ask my angels and guides and perhaps envision a cleansing, a waterfall, a shower. And if you are really sensitive, I know myself personally, I take 2 showers a day just because I physically, like, in the morning, it helps me like wash off the dream space and sleep and get ready for my day, like wake me up. And when I like come back sometime in the evening, it's just like my energetic hygiene of like, okay, clearing the day, clearing whatever I may have picked up. Now, I'm not saying you have to take 2 showers a day. I am just a Scorpio, water lover. I like water. But you don't have to take a shower. And I do this all throughout my day too, of just like taking a breath, cleansing my field in between sessions. Like, it's really important to just get clear on what's our energy, and doing this before you like really tune in and ask for guidance can really help support you and trusting your intuition. Okay, and number 6, the last tip that you're already doing, so congratulations, and that is to really immerse yourself in the energy of trusting intuition and connecting with spirit, with source, with the universe, and co-creating with that. So that means perhaps reading a spiritual text, any spiritual books, any podcasts or YouTube videos, or conversations with people. I find that getting in the energy of this, it taps my in, like it just taps me in. It taps me in when I'm able to have these conversations, when I read a book of someone who I align with, or I watch a video or I listen to a podcast where someone is speaking what I feel to be truth, what I feel to be authentic, what I feel to be is resonant with me and my frequency. And this is like, just because someone is speaking what could be quote true, it doesn't mean that it's true for you, right? As I alluded to earlier. So really finding those teachers, those texts, those channels, those whatever it is, that content that aligns with you and your frequency, and also being open to it changing and shifting and evolving over time, because it will, as you change and shift and evolve over time. But how can we be in this energy of like, just whether it's like 5 minutes in the morning or like an hour on your walk or while you're at the gym or before bed, like how can you just find a time throughout your day? And this isn't to say like, I really believe that, which I'm going to add this in. This is really important too, but silence is really important. Bonus tip number 7, silence is really important. Really, really, really important. So how can we find a balance? Because that's what I was getting to and thinking of, is like, this doesn't mean always having something in your ear of like, I have to be in the energy, like, yes, be in the energy of it, and then also be in your silence and in yourself and in your own energy. So when we can be in these conversations, it's literally like, I mean, we're so lucky. Like, yes, say what you will, I'm probably going to agree with you that technology is like a little overwhelming. It's a little like, it's a lot for our nervous system, for society, like being always quote on, like all of these things. I get it. However, how freaking lucky are we that we have access to so much information? It's really just about using discernment, using our intuition about what's in alignment. Another great way to do this is, oh wow, these bonus tips are just coming in. Tuning into your heart. Like if you start playing something, Notice what you feel in your heart, what you feel in your body. And this can be another great way. Wow. I wrote notes for this and now I'm like receiving all of these other things that I totally, it's like these other things that just started coming through that I forgot about that are really important. Human design. Learning to trust your authority in human design is really big. So like everyone says, your gut instinct. Trust your gut instinct. And for me, that never resonated because I was like, what is my gut saying? I don't know. Well, when I found out that I was, first of all, a projector, that changed everything in human design. But then also finding out that I'm a splenic projector. So my authority is my spleen. Now, trusting your spleen is it's very different. And it's been something that I've been like learning and cultivating over the years of like, how do I trust my spleen? Whereas like some people are emotional authorities, and how you receive intuition and guidance and wisdom is through going into the emotions of it. So I really encourage you to look into your human design, because that is a really powerful way to know what is truth for you and your body and your being and your energy. So if you are splenic, like I am, it's really that like the first hit you get is your intuitive sense. They say it's the most primitive, as far as like, it is just like, you know, within a split second. It's the very first hit you get. And this was huge for me to learn because I have to look at what, or I don't remember what my mom is, but I feel like she has to be emotional because, oh my goodness, she can like go, she likes to go into the emotions of it. And that's what I started doing. And I find now that the more I do this, the more I second guess myself. If I wait and wait and wait, like I lost it. I have to go with what I first get because that is what is true for me. However, like for reflectors, it takes a lunar cycle. So like really like waiting for the moon. Waiting a lunar cycle for really big decisions is going to help you so much. So, okay, these bonus tips, I don't even know where we're at anymore at the end. But I really just want to end with that one because it kind of breezed over it. Being by yourself, spending time alone, going to nature. Who guessed? Who knew I was going to say that? Going to nature with nothing in your ears, just silence. This will help you connect with your intuition and learn to trust yourself in such a deeper, deeper way. And I sometimes will go for walks and I'll always like know I go for a walk every day. But sometimes I'll find like I put something on and like my heart contracts or like my being contracts, or I just get a no. I get a no, nothing. And I'll just go for an hour-long walk in silence. And sometimes that's what I need. There was like a few month period where I was really, really, really being asked for stillness and quiet. And there were months where I didn't listen to a single podcast or YouTube or anything. Like I was learning me. I was learning me. And I find I go through periods of that over and over of just like coming back into me. And then I go through periods of like being so hungry for spiritual deepening and wisdom and learning. And it doesn't even have to be spiritual. It could be health or, it's going to be something I'm fascinated with or business or something like that. But like I go through ebbs and flows of like immersing myself in learning and being the student, and then being in silence. And I think we need this give and take, this yin and yang of like giving, receiving, learning, and then teaching. And we need both. We need the harmony and balance of both. And so immerse yourself in these conversations whether it's physically or just watching or listening to or reading, and then take the step back and integrate and open up your journal and listen and be curious of just what comes through. Make note of it, record it, talk it into your phone, like something, just make note of it in some way so that you can begin to see all of the ways that you can absolutely trust yourself, that you are so guided in every moment by yourself, your higher self, and by angels and guides, by God, source, the universe. So go ahead and let me know what tips you're going to do, have been doing, or that excite you in the comments below. And until next time, I am sending you infinite love and light.